Just gonna basically it's all about you. We're just gonna ask you questions and just go with it, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
What's up, guys? What's up? Welcome to the first episode of Deck Talk, and I'm Colin Burnett,
And I am Norman Lee.
and we got a special guest, a good friend,
A hammer.
and of mine, Josh Antwine. And Josh, go ahead,
I
bro.
was gonna say Chattahoochee fishing charters, guys. He is a stud out here on Nickajack and Chickamauga.
That's it, and we gonna have him on here for the first episode. We want to kind of find out about Josh, kind of see what he goes through, his mindset of his mindset when he gets out on the water, how he kind of breaks things down. We're just gonna talk fishing, talk life. Talk about family because he's got something that's expecting here in a couple of months. So we're excited about that. So Josh, you want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, like they said, I'm Josh. I operate Chattahoochee fishing charters, mostly down on the river in Lake Nickajack, but also, we run some trips up on Chickamauga when it's not too busy up there. But I've been at it for about 18 months full time now, and about 2.5, 3 years part time. Loving it, and it's super cool to get to wake up and go fishing every single day. As Norman knows, he's been doing it for a lot longer than I have down in Florida, and it's definitely a blessing and something I don't take for granted. And the goal is always to put people on the fish of a lifetime, but more importantly, to make each trip about the group that's out there that day, and just make sure that they enjoy their time out there.
Well said.
Sorry. Real quick. We want to say that we're sorry because of the cameras. The camera that we had that was going to be strictly on Josh. Just decided to die on us.
Technical difficulties.
So that's why Norman and Josh are sharing. We typically will not have it as just two blocks to where we want everybody individualized to where you can kind of see everybody better. So we want to apologize for that. And also, when we set up the YouTube channel for Deck Talk, we did not realize because with Norman and my YouTube channel, when we started doing live, it was old, it was established, and so we found out when we tried to go do a live real quick that it will not allow us for 24 hours, and we set up that account last night. So that's the reason why we're not on the Deck Talk. It will be on there tomorrow. So and then here in the next couple of days, we're going to have the first episode of Deck Talk onto a podcast form, which is going to be on your Spotify, Apple, and any other kind of podcast space. So wanted to say that before we really got started going into it. So with that, let's keep on going. and let's talk to Josh, see what he's got. So today, Josh, you had some people out guiding today, didn't you?
I did. We were out there all day. Left the lake, came here. Had a pretty good day today too. I know you guys went out there and caught them a little bit this morning. Just loving the good weather. We got a whole week coming up. We're supposed to be in the high 50s and 60s. The largemouth are pushing up a little bit and getting ready to do their thing and really wanting to be shallow. And we were able to take advantage of that today, catch a few good ones. And I think the bites will get a lot better as the week goes on.
So do you think that they're wanting to move shallow? Well, you know, Aaron, that they're wanting to move shallow because of the temperature, or do you think that it was because the water level that we was talking earlier is a foot over summer pool right now?
I think a lot of it is, definitely has a lot to do with it being high. The floodgates are open. They want to be moving shallow a lot because of that, but I do think they know what time of year it is. They know that. We gotta turn off one of the mics here for a second.
Yeah.
I think we're echoing.
Turn yours off. No. Over there. Hit the. Yeah. There we go.
Is that better?
I swear, guys, this is our first episode. So okay,
it's just downhill from here, right?
That's right.
Aaron, let us know if it's still echoing, please.
Should be good though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of these fish are wanting to push shallow simply because it's that time of year. We're getting towards March, towards April. We live in Tennessee, so these fish are going to push up a little earlier than some others will. And thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so I really think a lot of it has to do with it. They're ready to get up there. That water was pushing up around 50 degrees today, and they're fat too. So it's nice.
Yeah, we've seen the ones that we caught today were short but plump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
same with us.
But yeah, they are definitely getting ready. I don't think that they're not ready for spawning by yet, but they're doing a lot of feeding.
Mm-hmm.
We think that our opinion is that full moon last night kind of affected the bite a little bit for us.
Yeah,
we were thinking that because they were just munching all night is what we felt like, because we did not get that normally how like our bites and stuff, and which Josh, that it's down there is more on the river wise is almost, it's a thump instead of like today. Our bites were more or less like if you're fishing on Chickamauga and you have a bass just come up and just inhale it, and you just feel the tension and a tail kick. That's how it was today. So it wasn't like they were in that hungry mood that they were feeding. It was more or less we put it right by their face and they decided to take it.
Almost like they reacted to the bite as it went by, but they didn't want to really eat it. They'd mouth it and then just turn it loose right away.
Yeah, definitely. No, we had quite a few today with my clients where it was, you'd set the hook, you get 4 cranks in, and then they'd pull loose, or you'd land one and they'd have it right at the top of their mouth. But going back to what you said about them being heavy, our 2 biggest ones, to start the day, I landed one and said, it's about a 3-pounder. And we put it on the scale and it went over 4. Yeah. And then, we had another one where my client caught it and we said it was about a 2-pounder and ended up going almost 3. And that's just the awesome thing about this time of year is the weights are going to be higher. The fish are going to be bigger. And this is a great time of year to chase that fish of a lifetime, because that fish that's 8-9 pounds normally is going to be 10-11 pounds right now. So,
well, speaking of fish of a lifetime, do you know how many, just last year, how many PBs you had on your boat?
Like the exact number?
Well, just roundabout.
Roundabout?
I know.
Man,
a bunch.
Yeah. I'd say probably about 60 or 70 at least. And
because I was about to say, I know I had 2 of them on his boat.
Yeah, pretty much back-to-back cast. It was about 10 minutes apart.
And so, with that being said, we want to at least let you know that if you're coming to Chattanooga area and you're needing a guide or wanting a guide, look up Josh, Chattahoochee.
Especially if you're wanting to catch some big smallies.
Correct. And the thing about it is Norman and Josh has done this time and time again to Norman and I. And he probably thinks it's funny. We don't think that it's funny because we've gone even throwing the exact same bait that he's throwing. We've got them out of his boat, throwing the exact same stuff, and he's catching tanks when we're catching just 2 or 3 pounders, and he's catching people's PBs. So we're talking from experience, and he's doing it. He's showing everybody that he can do it. He's done it as a paycheck. I mean, as a full-time paycheck. What do you say, 18 months?
Yep, 18 months full-time.
So he knows what he's doing, and so we appreciate him, coming on here, but we appreciate him helping us out on the lake also. And that's one thing that we really enjoy because as fishermen, we feed off of each other. So if we know something, we like to bounce things off of people, especially if they're good buddies.
Yeah, and I want to say something too, real quick. Is I've been guiding for over 15 years, but all my guiding experience has been in South Florida. Well, you come up here, it's moved up here permanently 2.5 years ago. It's night and day from what we have in Florida to what we have up here. And Colin and Josh has been good friends for a while. And Colin actually introduced me to Josh. Now, me and Josh have became really good friends since then. But I tell you what, guys, Josh has kind of taken me under his wing, being that he's fished these lakes pretty much all his life and been guiding up here. And there's not many days that he doesn't have a trip booked up here. So for a fella guide to take another guide that's trying to get himself established in a different area than he's been in pretty much all his life, and knowing that I'm actually going to be, my office is basically the same office as his, I can't thank this man enough for what he's done for me personally up here, because he has actually showed me so much to help me out, as a fellow guide. And I will tell you one thing, there's not a lot of fishermen in general, more or less guides, that know we're competing guides against each other. Well, not right. I mean, don't take that the wrong way, not competing, but you know what I'm talking about. There's no other guide that would actually do that to help a brother like, us out. So I owe Josh a lot for what he's done for me personally, up in a totally new environment for me. So I owe Josh a lot for what he's done for me that way too. So, and I will tell you firsthand from what Colin said, this man is a stud, and we've been out with him personally. Josh has taken us around, showed me a lot of stuff, and this dude here, he can catch him.
Yeah. So we got ZK Customs on here. He says, "Hey boys, can't wait till Friday." So I take Friday might have to do something with Josh.
We'll have to see. I don't know.
Okay. Maybe read underneath the table. So. But so, and he says Josh Antwine with Chattahoochee is the man for the job.
Yeah.
He's exactly right. We've got Bruce and Scott Goodrich, and it says 5 others are watching you, and Todd Godwin. And Todd, thank you again for coming back on here.
Yeah.
But Josh, you want to kind of where did you get your fishing roots started?
Oh man, that's actually, I know a lot of people kind of have the origin story for fishing. My first big memory, we had some friends that had a lake house up in, I'm originally from Michigan, from southern Michigan, and originally we had some friends who had a lake house. They said we could stay there for a week. I think I was 8 or 9 years old that summer, and all I remember is my dad got some worms, and he wouldn't let me put a bobber on. My dad doesn't like bobbers, so if he's watching this, I didn't use bobbers. But anyway, reeling in those first couple fish on a worm, and then for that whole week, my mom would have to, come out and drag me inside to eat because I didn't want to come inside and eat, and eventually I just would come inside, eat as quick as I could, then go back outside and go back to fishing. So that's where it started, and then it was just kind of honing it in from there. I got my first bait caster when I was 9 or 10 years old, and we had some friends with a pond, and they would let us come walk the bank of their pond, and it's just. And then as far as loving the river, when we moved down here, one of the main things up north is we don't have the big bodies of water other than the Great Lakes, so you're fishing small creeks for smallmouth, things like that, and so that's why when I moved down here and saw that we had smallmouth, we had current, we had rock,
They fit right in with you.
Everything was perfect, and I fell in love with the river from there.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple of questions.
Yes, I see that one right there.
Yeah. Aaron Vincent asked, what do you like best this time of the year, live bait or artificial for smallmouth?
So definitely artificial. I'm not huge into the live bait. I'll do live bait here and there upon request. I'll use live bait when I take my nephews fishing. But artificial this time of year, especially for the smallmouth, because they're getting ready. They'll do their thing about a month earlier than the largemouth will, and they're going to be a little bit deeper when they spawn. And so just finding those areas where you can find some slack in the current, rock piles around some deeper channel swing banks, things like that. Great places for smallmouth to want to spawn. And so this time of year, I'm definitely looking at artificial, just your typical, red crankbaits, anything that's going to move in front of them, that's going to cause a reaction. Because one thing you'll start seeing over the next few weeks is every smallmouth you catch is going to have red eyes. And then you'll start seeing that with the largemouth and the spotted bass a few weeks later. But we've already been catching a bunch of smallmouth that have red eyes right now, which means, about that time they're getting ready.
Well, my next question was going to be spawning points, difference between smallmouth and largemouth, but you pretty much just summed it up with just what you just said.
Yeah.
So, my dad is poking jabs at somebody that is on this podcast already by saying, "Hey, Josh, when fishing the river, do you shake off a drum?"
Oh man, no, you don't shake it off. You just bring a hammer with you and you hit it on the head when it gets up to the boat.
How big of a splash does a little man take when you toss him out the boat?
Hey, I will say, if Steve were sitting at this table right now, none of us three sitting here would be the best fisherman in the room. So he'll try and act like he's the net man, but don't let him fool you. He sits back there and he's a secret assassin back there in that deck chair. So
yeah. He tries, definitely.
Steve's taking and poking jabs at me.
That's right.
It's been like this all day on the water. It's been like, especially when Norman caught a drum today. He even cranked it up.
I was gonna say my tournament partner for years, Jake. He told me I should name my charter the Little Drummer Boy Charters. So that's not quite as bad as that jab right there.
No. Yeah. What about your family life? You're married,
mm-hmm.
and you got a little one on the way, right?
Yeah. So that's one thing I don't like talking about my charter without talking about the support system that I have, and it starts with my wife Caroline. She's an incredible woman. Some of you guys watching may have met her. I know Zach's met her, but she's amazing. I choke up a lot of times talking about her just because she's the one who allowed me to be out here. She allowed me to take the risk, and then we've got our first little one on the way in May, and we're not finding out if it's going to be a boy or a girl until the baby's born.
So do you have a name for either way?
Yeah. So if it's a boy, it's going to be Titus William, and William's after her dad, and then if it's a girl, it'll be Eliana Ray.
Oh man, that is awesome.
Yeah. And then just the rest of my family too. Same thing. Yeah. awesome family. I am who I am because of the people that raised me, and my dad's still, my first and favorite fishing partner, and then my mom is, I'm a big mama's boy. So
Yeah, the first time I actually met Josh, I pulled up on him, and he was actually fishing with your dad.
With my dad.
And was it?
No, it was Mr. Ron, who's another good mentor of mine. Yeah.
So, but I say that, and I think it was your dad that caught
the big smallie.
That
was Mr. Ron.
Yeah,
that was Mr. Ron.
I just knew somebody caught a tank right in front of me.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that I do want to say something that it impresses me a whole lot about you. Going out on the boat and with Josh, the first thing before we're even taking off, he says, "Hey, do you mind if we say a prayer over the trip, make sure everything's goes safely?" And to me, that is awesome. I mean, because that speaks highly of yourself, that that without him, none of this would be possible for you to be able to do what you're doing. So that, to me, I just want to say, I'm very, that makes me happy,
Yeah, no, that's something that I went out with a guide a few years ago, and he did that, and I was like, you know what, if I ever get into guiding, I want to do that as well. And my mom, every time we talk about a trip, she'll ask me, did you pray today? And I'm like, yes, I promise we did.
Yeah.
And but that's just, in my life, that's how you should start every day, and be thankful for how you got there and who gave it to you. So
yeah.
Norman, you got any questions?
You know what? Growing up as a kid, of course, all of us fishermen, we always have somebody we look up to when we're trying to get started, just learning how to fish. Did anybody, whether it be a family member, someone else, maybe another pro that you might have followed, or who was your inspiration growing up?
Yeah, so I definitely have a couple with that. The first one being a Michigan guy, growing up, all we heard about, Kevin Van Dam. But so that was kind of the first one for me, is, who doesn't want to be like Kevin Van Dam, the best bass fisherman that's ever been. But then after we moved down here, speaking of Mr. Ron, the one that had the giant smallmouth in his hand when you pulled up on us, he's from Chattanooga. He's lived here his whole life. And he, when I was in high school, took me fishing out in his bass boat for the first time. And so he's really kind of the one that got me started on fishing the river and falling in love with it, and really taking me under his wing. And so as far as inspiration goes, fishing wise, that kind of molds into inspiration as who I wanted to be, as well as, but he would definitely be the one that would come to mind, that I wanted to not only fish as good as he did, but treat people the way he did. And, how he took me fishing. That's kind of how my love for taking people fishing started, was, him taking me, and then always being willing to do whatever he could to help me out.
Yeah. Now, being a guide, what gives you more joy of seeing, like, as a guide and stuff, what gives you more joy, seeing somebody catch that PB, or are you going out and you catching 100 fish a day?
Ooh. I gotta honestly say that really depends on what each group wants to do. Right. Now, everybody obviously wants to catch the biggest fish of their life when they're out with a guide, but that's not going to happen every day. And so that's a conversation I have with most of my groups, is, what are you looking to get out of it? Are you looking to learn how to fish this lake, or are you just here for the week and you want to know? But if we're just talking me personally, there's nothing better than watching somebody reel in, that the biggest fish they've ever caught. Quite a few guys that may watch this video, or, people that follow my Facebook and stuff, are people who have caught their personal best, and you can attest to it. When you landed that smallmouth, I'm pretty sure I was louder than anybody that's in the boat. And there's just something about it, it's hard work. It's why I do what I do, is to put people on the fish of a lifetime. And And so there really isn't a better feeling.
And I'd add one thing to it too. The best part of being a guide is being able to see the smiles you can put on someone's face when they catch that, especially younger kids.
Exactly.
Well, Zach says that he would rather catch 100 fish. He's not going to break his PB.
We all know your PB is 3.5 pounds, Zach.
Yeah, we know. We fished against you.
Yeah. Well, if you fish against Zach when he can put a topwater plug in his hand, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
But
let's see. When did you realize that you wanted to do guiding as a career?
Zach says he got a 12-pounder. But honestly, it was something I've kind of always thought about when I was finishing up my degree. I played baseball in college. I knew I wasn't going to go pro with that, so I knew it was time to kind of start looking at a career. And that's when the thought started. But after graduation, I went to work for Chick-fil-A. I was a marketing director with them, and I loved that side of it. So the marketing side of it, I loved the people side of it. But after a while, it just was, didn't really want to be in a restaurant anymore. Wanted to do something to where I could use my passion, which is, just people. I love being around people. I love having good conversation with people. And of course I love fishing. And so my wife and I were talking about things I could do after Chick-fil-A. And I kind of jokingly said I could go fishing every day. And she was like, well, could you? And I was like, there's guides out there. And so that's kind of where it started. And it was a lot of hard work from there. But that was really when, when she said, yes, I think we should do this. I think you'll be happy. I think you'll be good at it. And kind of pushed me to do it was really when it kind of changed from a pipe dream to, holy crap, we're going to give this a shot. So.
Right. Now, this might be a double question for Norman and Josh. So y'all can kind of pick whoever's going first to answer this. But I was thinking of things that trying to ask that maybe people that's listening to this podcast might be thinking, well, I want to be a guide. Mm-hmm. So when you start to thinking about being a guide, how much work is it to be able to try to get on fish and stay on fish for your customers?
That I was gonna say I got a quick answer for that one. So that is the hardest thing about guiding. Every group that gets in your boat's expectation is they're going to catch them like the last group. They book with you because they see your social media, they see your posts, and they're like, man, I'm going to go out and we're going to catch them like that or better. And it doesn't happen like that every day. And there's a lot of people that I've had conversations with that are great fishermen. But sometimes it's about, you get to noon, you're having a tough day, and you've got to be able to have that stretch or those few stretches and know that you're going to go and put some fish in the boat at some point during that day, because you don't want anybody leaving after paying to go fishing with you not having caught them. So right. If you want to add anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's basically a lot of time on the water. Mm-hmm. Even when you don't have a trip with you, burning a lot of gas, spending a lot of money, just trying to, the more areas you have on a particular body of water, the better off you're going to be, because not every day, if you catch 40 fish in one area one day, it might not be the same. The more areas you could find, the better, but spend a lot of time on the water. Even when you don't have trips with you, you're going to be spending a lot of money. But the main thing about being a guide is you want to make your customers happy, even if that means spending a little bit of money other than, guiding to put a little bit into it, but you're going to get a lot more reward out of it at the end. So spend time on the water, even when you don't have trips with you. So you could kind of, you got to be able to, and a lot of, especially like on nickerjack, it changes almost on a daily basis. Yeah. So you're almost having to spend every day out there, even if you don't have a trip, so you can kind of follow the fish around and know what they're doing from day to day. And if you don't do that, you're lost. If you're not on there in a week and you go back out, think you could just get on the same fish you were on a week ago, you're going to be lost. You're going to be out in left field.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add to that is just you can't bank on 3 or 4 spots to always produce, because if you're fishing those 3 or 4 spots every time you've got a trip, eventually all of them are going to burn up on one day. And So that's why it's important to put the time in on the water, understand the fishery that you're on, and understand kind of how to pattern them depending on, time of year, water level, current, all those different kind of things. Because that's a lot of times I'll show up to the ramp in the morning, see the way the water looks, and start to formulate a game plan from there. As opposed to, I know a lot of guys are, in their head the night before, they're like, I'm going to hit this spot and this spot and this spot. And that can't be your mindset. Your mindset has to be, I'm going to look at the conditions that I have that day, and I'm going to go forward from there. And time on the water is really the only thing that can get you prepared to do that.
Yeah. And fishing the conditions is a key too, because if you have a guide trip, you can't, even if you get bad weather,
Can't make the excuse.
You can't make the excuse. You got to go. So you got to be able to fish the conditions and narrow it down by having more spots out there. Depending on what the weather is, you have your options open of where you could go and what you could do, because it's not always going to be the same day to day, and the weather has a big thing to do with what you might have to do on the water once you get there.
Right. Rocky Stokes says, any tips on deep, clear water spotted bass lake? So I take it he's probably talking Lanier, something like that.
Yeah. So that's one. Rocky, I know you and Zach fish Carter's. Allatoona is a good example of one of those. Up here in Cleveland, we have Parksville. That is one. If you have forward-facing sonar, it's super helpful on bodies of water like that. But if you don't, finding main lake points are where I'm always going to start on a lake that has clear water and spotted bass. Anytime I go down to Lanier, I go there once or twice a year, and I love Lake Lanier, some of the biggest spotted bass in the world. And the first place I'm going to check is a deep point that feeds into the main lake or dumps off into the main lake. And then also using your maps, the bigger pockets, finding those humps on the creek that feeds back into the pocket are a great place to look, because spotted bass never really want to get too shallow. So if you're wanting to catch spotted bass, you're gonna have to fish deep, which means you're gonna have to use your graphs. You're gonna have to spend time behind the wheel before you make a cast. You're gonna need to mark fish before you're casting at them, because a lot of times, if you're on a lake with largemouth and you're wanting to catch them shallow, you can find a stretch of bank with good cover on it and throw a moving bait and find some fish. But with spotted bass, you're gonna want to use those graphs. And then, like I said, main lake points, right up, literally where they bump into the main river, the humps and the brush piles that you can find on the way back into pockets. And then a lot of times for myself, for instance, on Lanier, anytime I go down there, the first thing I've got my 4 or 5 pockets that I like there, but it works on any of those lakes, is that first stretch of docks in a big pocket is always a great place to start when you're looking for spotted bass, because they're going to be a little bit deeper. It's going to be the first place they set up when they move off the main lake. And a lot of times those spotted bass are going to even spawn in 13 to 18 feet of water. So they can spawn right there on that dock and then go back out.
Yeah. Do you prefer like the deep clear lakes, or do you prefer like to have some kind of stain?
What am I fishing for in this question?
Well, let's do some smallies.
If we're chasing smallmouth, and this is actually kind of contrary to what most people would say, but I like a little bit of stain, because my favorite way to catch smallmouth is with a moving bait. If you've been in my boat, we use a Ned rig a lot. We use a drop shot a lot. But my favorite way to catch them, and like I said, you asked, what do I prefer? My favorite way to catch them is on a moving bait, whether that be an A-rig, a spinner bait, a shallow crankbait. So a little bit of stain with those smallmouth, because they're sight feeders, whereas spotted bass and largemouth are they're feed by scent and they feed by like the vibration. Spotted bass like to be able to see what they eat, and if they can't see, they become ultra aggressive, right, and they're going to hit a lot harder. And so you can throw those moving baits right past them.
Let's see. Rocky said he found them on Chattooga Sunday, 30 to 45 feet. Mm-hmm. Could see them on live, but just followers couldn't get them to eat. through single swim baits, finesse jigs, shaky heads, jigging spoons, and crankbaits.
So that one, Chattoog's another awesome lake. Being from up here in Cleveland, Chattoog's only about me too, Rocky. That's my favorite time to fish nickajack. He said he loves it when nickajack is high and dirty. So we catch a lot of our biggest smallmouth when it's like that. It's how it is right now. And we had a 5-pound smallie early last week. So but yeah, Chattoog, that makes sense. You're gonna get a lot of followers there. I'm guessing that was kind of a question, but I'm just gonna say maybe try throwing a jerkbait at him. I know you fish with Zach a lot. Zach's a hammer with the jerkbait. So, but throwing a jerkbait in that situation is a good way to do it. But if you're getting a lot of followers, a lot of times that may just mean it's a school that's not super fired up. Leave, come back in 30 minutes, give them some time to maybe get fired up. And if you think they're the right kind of fish, keep checking back in on them, especially on a lake like Chattoog that's super small. And I know you got that nice new Skeeter, so you can get around that lake pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, on a lake like that that's kind of small, keep checking back in on that school if you think they're the right fish, because eventually they'll fire up.
Yep. So do you like fishing lakes that have the thread fins?
Yeah, I do. I love blueback herring lakes. Like I said, I went to college in South Carolina, so fishing Lake Hartwell a lot with the blueback herring. But threadfin lakes are a lot of fun, because a lot of times you're going to have more largemouth, and when those threadfins start dying off, as a lot of guys who are watching the video, who will watch the video, you guys know, when those threadfins start dying, the bass come up and absolutely gorge themselves. And but yeah, threadfin lakes definitely good. You know, nickajack's got a lot of threadfin, a lot of gizzard shad. But I would say if I had to pick my favorite forage, I love blueback herring lakes, because if you look at the fish from those lakes, they're always just a little bit fatter for whatever reason. Lake Lanier, everybody on here has seen pictures from Lake Lanier. Those spotted bass are thick, full, year round, and it's a blueback herring lake.
Right. Now, if you can pick any lake or any place to go fish in the world, where would that be, and what are you targeting?
Oof.
I know it's not.
Yeah, I know. So that's like if I had this wasn't on the list. Everybody.
We made a list for him, but I have not been going.
Yeah, Colin's been very. No, that's okay. That's okay. I love smallmouth, as a lot of people who know me and talk to me know. I love smallmouth, and being from up north, I never got to fish St. Lawrence River, so I'd love to spend some time up on the St. Lawrence River. Yeah. You know, I'd love to fish a body of water where a 3-pound smallmouth is nothing to anybody. So that St. Lawrence, but then outside of that, some of those lakes out in Texas, you know, and then as far as spotted bass go, Clear Lake. So since you didn't give me time to prepare for that one, you get 3 answers.
Well, see, you hit on what I said, because I said because Norm and I were talking about it, and I said Rayburn or Lake Fork. Mm-hmm. Those two are, to me, is on the bucket list to be able to go hit. Norman said
I thought he took the box.
He took it way out of the box, because somebody asked us where would we want to fish. Did not say U.S. I took it as U.S. He took it in the world, and so he said I want to go to Amazon and catch some monster peacock.
Yeah, that would be fun.
18 to 20-pound peacock.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of lakes, kind of in the Southwest, Toledo Bend kicked out a 40-pound limit in the BFL last weekend with a 13.5-pound kicker. So
I did not hear that.
Yeah,
Toledo Bend,
biggest BFL fish ever weighed in. 13.
How would you like to be on a kayak and have that thing pulling you around?
Tow you around.
Yeah, Zach and them went out to Lake Fork last year. So
he didn't like it.
No, he did catch. Zach, post a picture of that 5-pounder you caught out there though.
He's like, I catch those back at home.
That's right. He didn't need to drive 1,200 miles.
I've always seen like on Lake Fork that like fishing the cypress stumps that's out there.
Yeah.
But again, he might not have been
Also, the time of the year that you're there too.
Right, that's what I say.
Depending
He
on
might
where
not have been, because I seen what they had. They canceled. Was it 2 years ago? They canceled the Lake Fork tournament for the BASS.
Well,
With the elites, they canceled it, and then they rescheduled it for later in the year.
did
But
they
the
cancel
water
the whole
level
tournament? I thought they just canceled one day. They actually
it was the whole tournament,
Was it
because
the
they
whole
can't. They went back, and the water level was lower than what it would have been if they would have gone. And they're like, man, we can't even fish. That's what we want to. That's what we come here to do, is fish these cypress knees.
yeah. guys getting out there when the water's a little low and see all these cypress knees sticking that far above the water. And
Yeah.
like 2 weeks ago, I ran right across there.
Right. But yeah, let's see, how many days a year roundabout. I mean, I don't want you to pull out your calendar and be like, I fished.
Right.
But how many days a year do you ballpark figure that you're on the water?
That was one of the questions you sent me, so I started thinking about it. But anywhere from 250 to 275, I'd say. 5 days a week usually, and Zach can't post a picture, but 5 days a week usually, and then a lot of times I end up out there at 6. Whether it be a Sunday afternoon or anything like that. But yeah, anywhere from 250 to 275 days a week, or a year usually. So a lot of days.
And one thing too, this man is booked pretty much almost solid for the most part too. There's not many days that you're actually not booked during the main part of the season anyway.
That's the goal. Right now we're out almost through April, so if you're watching this and want to get a trip, reach out soon if you want to go in the spring.
Yeah, because that's definitely the time that you really want to get out. What lakes do you say that you guide on, that so people, if they want to say that I'm looking to go to this lake?
Yeah. So Lake Nickajack, obviously that's my number one lake. I'm probably down there 80% of the time or more. Lake Chickamauga, I'll guide up there. Especially, I've got quite a few trips in March and April on Chickamauga. And that's just people who want to target those bigger bites, and so you're going to go up there expecting not to catch as many. But yeah, we're gonna those two for sure. You're not supposed to guide on Parksville, so I definitely don't guide on Parksville. But yeah. So
tell us the difference between Chickamauga and Nickajack. I know, because one thing is the species that you mainly target is totally different.
Yep.
But how do you go? Does your preparation for guiding on Chickamauga differ from Nickajack?
Yeah, so one thing that I do, again, going back to trying to make sure every client group has a really awesome trip, is I will always make sure that say I've been guiding for 3 weeks straight on the river and I haven't been up on Chickamauga. If somebody books a trip with me on Chickamauga, I make sure to book it out far enough to where I can get on Chickamauga at least one day in the day or two before and spend a whole day out there just getting reacclimated to it. As far as how they fish different, everyone who's fished both of them, especially for someone like me who fishes the north end of Nickajack a lot, the current is the number one thing. There's current on Chickamauga, absolutely, when you get on the main lake after a lot of rain, things like that. But it fishes more like a lake. Nickajack fishes more like a river. You're going to use your spot lock a lot more. And the Nickajack fishes a little bit deeper than Chickamauga does. A lot of times on Chickamauga, you're going to be, I'd say for 6 to 8 months out of the year, you can find them really shallow on Chickamauga. Whereas on Nickajack, as you guys know, you've been out there yourselves, you've been out there with me, we're catching them routinely in 12 to 25 feet of water all year round. And a lot of times it's abnormal to be catching them shallower than that on Nickajack, whereas on Chickamauga, it's really, during the summer that you're going to be catching them much deeper than that 12-foot mark on Chickamauga. Or I take that back. It's abnormal on Chickamauga to have to target them deeper than that, because you can always find a deep bite. There's one there on every lake. There's fish that never come up shallow. But that's the biggest difference is Nickajack just fishes a good bit deeper than the current, obviously.
Yeah, that's the reason why, like on Chickamauga, you will always see boats fishing the wedges on Chickamauga.
Always.
But the thing with Chickamauga too is, or Nickajack is, you're going to have more prevalent smallmouth on Nickajack. Where you get on Chickamauga, it's going to be more your largemouth is going to be more prevalent on Chickamauga versus now there is smallmouth on Chickamauga,
Yeah.
but Nickajack you're going to catch probably a lot more smallmouth than you're going to catch on Chickamauga, and plus Chickamauga has your Florida strain, which you always have an opportunity anytime you go to Chickamauga to catch that double-digit fish of a lifetime.
That's not nearly as common down on the river, the 10-pounders as they are up on the lake. And the thing that Nickajack doesn't get enough credit for, and a couple people that see this might be mad at me for kind of spilling the beans, Nickajack's a better grass fishing lake than people give it credit for. When you go down into a few areas on Nickajack, you can catch them in the grass just as good as you do on Chickamauga, and it's not going to have near the pressure around you as you will during the fall up on Chickamauga.
Hey, Zach, we will edit that out.
What is that?
I was just saying that because I know he'd be like, oh, man.
But
I was just joking. No, because we... Rocky says he's seen 11-2 out of Nickajack this year.
Yeah, y'all waited. Yeah, you definitely can see him down there. I know there was a 10 there last March. There's a guy who said he caught a 12 last year. You're just not going to see him as often.
Right.
You see those 10-pounders pretty regularly on Chickamauga even today.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, but there is Florida strand in Nickajack. Viva the lock. That's what I mean, that's how they're getting through. But yeah, Zach is correct. There is Florida strand down there.
Yeah, there's any bass around.
Zach, I saw the pictures of that one too.
If there's any bass on the Chickamauga side today, they better hold on because they would get sucked through.
That's right.
It was ripping.
Yeah. And then Zach, if that 11-2 that you weighed for that guy, be realistic. That 12-pounder you're saying was probably about 6.5, wasn't it?
Camera angles.
It's all about the camera angle.
Now, this ain't on the list again, but how does fishing Nickajack because today we went up by the dam. We didn't get up to the dam. We went by the dam. They had 10 spillways going. So how does the lake change from them having the spillways open to not and just running generators?
Honestly, really the main thing it changes is fishing up at the dam. A lot of times when they've just got the generators running, you can get up there and catch them really good. But when you've got water spilling through the gates, a lot of times that's when I'm going to spend more time mid-lake than I usually do. We'll start most days up at the north end near the dam, but whenever whenever they have the spill gates open, a lot of times I'm going to push further down lake a little bit, because what that does is that current gets really moving further down the lake, and it positions those fish down there.
Yeah, it activates them
exactly
much,
exactly, and those are fish that don't get pressured as much as the ones do all the way up by the dam.
Right.
Yeah,
because we went past Moccasin Bend, and that current around Moccasin Bend, I'd say, was about what it is when they got like maybe 4 generators going, 5 generators going down at Moccasin Bend. So
is that a question for me or you?
You can, we'll let you answer. But Zach, I did not know they put them in at Marion County. He was talking about, he said that they put the Florida strand down in Marion County.
Yeah.
All right.
So I didn't know that. I figured that it was, he said both. I figured that it was just coming through the locks when they locked through.
Rocky, we caught them pretty good in the first thing in the morning. I was actually shocked because we had that full moon last night. I figured it'd be an afternoon bite, but it's actually a morning bite. We found some largemouth today. I was talking to Zach about it earlier about how the largemouth are starting to really cooperate. So we'll be showing a certain couple people on Friday where all those largemouth are at. So,
Norman? Do we need to get on Nick and Jack Friday then? We'll be following some mystery boat. Now today we did have a better early morning. Well, it wasn't early morning, but it was a morning. We had a better morning bite today than we did, because probably about I'd say about 11:30ish, it really kind of started to die on us with the bites that we were getting. And everything that we caught, we were pretty much throwing up into, pounding the banks, throwing into the brushes where the water has come up and where it's up a foot up above summer pool. So all the brush is now getting flooded. So we were catching everything that our hits was coming within the first 3 feet really off of the bank. So we noticed that everything was pushed up against the bank today. So so do you throw like a swim bait all year round, or is there just certain times? Because you said that you like throwing an A rig. Do you throw like a single, maybe, or like an underspin?
Yeah. So one of my favorite baits to throw is just a single swim bait, especially because down on the river you'll notice that the bait fish are consistently going to be a little bit smaller. The fish are going to be a little meaner. You'll notice next time you're fishing the river, look at the tail of one of the bass. They're always a little bit taller than they are on different bodies of water. But the bait fish, their growth is a little bit more stunted because, one, they can't get out in that current as easily as the bass can, and two, when they can't get out in the current, they can't hide as well. So they don't get as big. And so I love throwing a single swim bait. Most of the year we'll have one of those tied on. But yeah, single swim bait, A rig this time of year. There's definitely a couple little secret baits that we like to keep up our sleeve. But yeah, single swim bait and an A rig, and then a crankbait. It's hard to beat a crankbait in the colder water, especially when the current gets really, really strong. They have a really hard time letting that crankbait go by without at least figuring out what it is. Yeah.
So what would be your favorite bait to go to?
Like if I could pick one bait to get bit on, or if I had to get a bite?
If you had to go out right now and catch a fish.
And again, you don't have to give exact, but just what style, what type of bait.
Right.
If I've got to go out and catch a fish, anybody who's been fishing with me knows I'm going to have an end rig in my hand. And that it may not be a very big fish, but if I have to go out and catch fish, but if we're talking my favorite bait to get bit on, it would either be a shallow crankbait. I love a crankbait that dives less than 10 foot. There's just something about feeling it bounce off a rock or deflect off some cover and then load up. Or here, I'll give one of the baits away. Or a little Cleo. That's probably my favorite bait to get smoked on, is the little Cleo.
I threw that for about 2 hours this morning.
I was gonna say Norman and Colin got in on that little secret with the little Cleo. But if you want to know how I fish the bait,
you need to book a trip,
because it's a ton of fun when they're on it.
Oh man, it is a blast. And
to add one thing to that, every day, again, get back to every day is different out there. They're going to hit it several different ways. You might be throwing it one way one day. The next day, they might not quite want it the same way you were throwing it the day before. So you got to change it up. So, and that's what he's getting at.
To put it in perspective, I haven't had one of those tied on in about 2 months.
Yeah,
but it's still.
I was throwing the wrong bait today. No,
but it's still my favorite bait to get bit on. But I haven't thrown one in a couple months because it's a very seasonal thing. When they're on it, they're on it. When they're not, they're really not.
Yeah, and just a little tip is when you're throwing that Cleo, change hardwares.
Yep.
So, other than that, that's the only kind of tip that I'm gonna give for the Cleo. But let's see. let's
One more thing. The other tip I'll give is, and I know a lot of people don't do this. I'm real particular when it comes to something coming out of the package. Typically, and I know the hooks on it is pretty good. I usually change out the hooks. I have my own. I have my own treble hooks that I like to use. That I'm really, my confident treble hooks. But I will. But the one thing I absolutely will change on little Cleo when they come in the package is the split ring on the front side of them.
The split ring, and a lot of times I'll change the hook for sure.
Yeah.
Put on like an owner sting or something like that. Because if you take that little Cleo out of the package, for me, I know it's got a sharp hook on it. If I can go, take the hook like that and peel away a little skin,
Yeah.
and if I can't do that with a bait, it's getting a new hook, and that's one of them that gets a new hook.
Yeah. So, not the fact that we're trying to bash little Cleo, because we do like
My
them.
favorite bait.
Love the bait, and this man hooked me up with it.
But so now let's talk about, because you said if you had to catch a fish and it didn't matter the size or anything like that, you said the Ned rig. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Jesse.
Okay, yeah, Jesse. If you've been in my boat, you have used probably Flippin' Fish. That's the name of the company. You've used one of his Ned rig heads. He makes the best jig heads that I've used. I've used a lot of different Ned rig heads, especially when you guide. You get some clients who are still new to fishing, and you're trying to help them get fish in the boat. So you're going to throw finesse stuff like that a lot. And the finesse bait that works the best for me is a Ned rig. So I've always been searching for that best Ned rig head for the best price. And Jesse, he's a guy. He owns a company called Flippin' Fish up out of Cookeville, Tennessee. You can find him on Facebook, Instagram. If you want to get in contact with him, you can reach out to me and ask for a phone number. But he makes the best Ned rig head, great light wire hook on it. He will do everything he can to get you the colors, the patterns, the weights, whatever it is you want. He's got a million different weights and a million different colors. What I love most about his jig heads is, one, he doesn't overcharge for them, and two, if you've been up to Parksville, it can be a very rocky lake, and or even on Nickajack, you can bang that thing over a shell bed for 8 hours, and it's still going to have the paint on it at the end of the day. And you're not going to pay the same that you will for other brands. So that's just, for me, those are the two things that make his jig heads the best. So if you'd like to see any of those, if you run into me at the boat ramp and you're curious about it, he makes an awesome jig head. He makes soft plastics. He makes regular jigs. Just great all around guy who makes some great stuff. So definitely wanted to plug him on here a little bit.
Yeah. So does he just do hooks or does he do anything else?
Yeah, so he does. He has probably 50 different soft plastic molds. He does a lot of my molds for little swim baits. He makes a great Zako for throwing on a chatterbait. Lots of good drop shot worms, things like that. He pours them all himself. If you have a color you've dreamt of, and you can even describe it to him, he will make it for you, or like lose sleep over not being able to make it. But yeah, so he does soft plastics. He has jigs, skirted jigs. He does one of the things we like to throw out there is the Z-Man micro jig. He makes a good micro jig as well. So just a Ned rig with a skirt on it. So yeah, he does it all.
Yeah, we just want to at least give him a plug on this, because it helps out when you find a bait maker or something like that can make stuff and that can get it to you when you need it, because when you need it and you can't get it, that's when you need it the most. Yep. So, and he helps Josh get out every day out on the water. And
if you've been in my boat, you've seen my giant bag of Ned rig heads, and every time I text him for 150 more, he gets them to me as soon as possible, and I'm never out of Ned rig heads or ball head jigs or anything like that.
So let's talk about you giving back, because I know that is a big part of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've done the 50 legs tournament, and I know that you've done the St. Jude's and stuff like that. And there's been multiple other things that you have given to help raise money for some kind of charity.
Yep.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What makes you want to do that, for one? I mean, because some people would be like, "Oh, that's just I'm throwing a day guide trip out when I could have actually been making that money."
Mm-hmm.
But you choose to give it for a good cause. So
yeah, so there's obviously a lot of you can answer that real quick.
Zach asked if we're doing the 50 legs tournament this year. We are not doing it this year. We because Norman and I wanted to get this podcast started, and then we've got our production company going. So we're trying to get the podcast started and doing all with the podcast or the production company. It just kind of took up more time to where we did not have the time to be able to put into doing the 50 legs. So we are going to try to get it going again here this following year. We were asked by Steve Chamberlain, that's the guy that runs 50 legs. We was asked. He said, "We appreciate you doing the fishing tournament," but he says, "Can you please make it to where it's in the summertime?"
And he's from Orlando.
He's from Southern Florida, Tampa area. So
side note on that, I took Norman crappie fishing a couple months ago, and I thought he was going to curl up in the fetal position in the bottom of the boat.
I made one mistake. I didn't put my gloves on before it ran across the water, and I never could get the frostbite out of my hands that whole day.
But yeah, the answer. Are you?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, I was going to say that to answer your question about the charities. One, if you're in a position to do it, you should do it. I got to give Zach a shout out. I know he's watching, and a lot of people, of course, you know who Zach is. If you fish Nickajack, he's a hammer out there. But he put on a tournament. What was that, Zach? A month and a half ago around Christmas, and I donated a half-day trip to it. Lots of people bought raffle tickets. All that money went to a group called Young American Ministries, and what they do is it's down in North Georgia. They work with some underprivileged kids and just bring them in on Mondays, have a devotional, have a dinner. And so we donated. Okay, it was January 1st that Zach did that tournament, and so we donated. I donated a half-day trip. All the money went to them. You guys ended up raising almost $200 to give to them for that trip, which was almost the cost of the half-day trip itself, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they were super grateful. But yeah, just giving back is something that is important to me, which I know a lot of people say that. It's cliche, but there's been way too many people that have helped me get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
You two guys sitting here doing your podcast, a lot of the guys watching, Zach, Rocky, people I've talked to, people I've ran into, my family, obviously, but there's been way too many people that have gone out of their way to help me for absolutely no reason and for just to be nice. And so that's why I give back. And then the last one that I do is for a charity, or for the NWTF, the National Wild Turkey Federation. They do a banquet every year, and so I donate one for them just to get more kids outside. So.
Now, tell us a little bit too. You do one for I think it's called the Outdoor Warriors.
So it's
you basically give away 2 trips a year.
Yeah, so it's called the Fallen Outdoors. It's an organization that gets veterans outside. Norman was nice enough. Part of the reason we were crappie fishing back in December was so we could get a game plan for how we were going to take these guys fishing. But once a quarter we have a group of guys from the Fallen Outdoors come, and they're veterans who we donate outdoor activities for them. And so for myself, it's obviously a fishing trip, and we donate it to them and just take a few veterans fishing as a thank you for their service, as a way to give them an opportunity to enjoy some outdoor time and not be at a high cost to them. And then of course it's therapy for us, and it's therapy for a lot of people. And so being able to give back in that way for people who were willing to make the ultimate sacrifice so I could make a living fishing, just seemed like the right thing to do. So that's why we do that.
Yeah, because we knew that just knowing you, that that you have a heart for that, for helping people out. And so even when you help out people when it's actually costing you to go to take somebody out, it's costing you money with the driving to the boat ramp, the gas and the bait and all that. So we wanted to spotlight that because that is we know that it's big and into your heart and into your family and stuff, because it affects them also. So and that might tie back even back to you with your faith and all that too, that you're having faith that God's going to take care of you on that aspect. You're helping people out, so it's going to be taken care of, followed up.
Absolutely.
But I had another question for you, but I totally forgot it. You have anything, Norman?
Man, I think we covered about everything. But anything else you might want to add, Josh, to this?
I do have. I remember.
There you go.
All right. With you guiding, what age group? I mean, I know you don't want like no toddlers or nothing like that on your boat or something like that. But do you like adapt for like to having kids on the boat, elderly people on the boat, and for your guide trips?
Yeah, no, we do. You know, I'll have a lot of conversations. A lot of parents have good enough, a good enough mindset about it to where they'll reach out and they'll be like, "Hey, my kid's 4 years old. Is he too young?" And we'll talk through it a little bit. But whoever wants to go fishing on my boat is welcome. I've had trips with people we've had to help into the boat and get them into the boat. I think the youngest I've had is 4 years old out there, and she was a sweetheart, and she did awesome all day. And but really it's just about growing that love for the next generation and growing love for people who are kind of over the hill too, but still want to feel young. There's nobody that's not allowed in the boat. There's not a trip where I'm gonna not look forward to it because of who I've got coming out there. That's why I love doing what I do, is because each group has something to bring, and it's just awesome. It's awesome to be able to see all that.
Yeah. And Lori from Two Chicks in a Boat says, hey,
what's up, Lori?
So,
and they'll be actually, when are they due to be here with their
Lori, can you put the date of y'all's tournament for Chickamauga on here, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about it before we wrap things up. Lori and Beth are Two Chicks in a Boat. We met them at ICAST last year, and April 2nd. Yep. And so they live in Ohio, and so we met them at ICAST, chit-chatted with them on the bus ride back to the hotel. So we gave numbers and stuff like that back and forth. And so we've been kind of just keeping in touch. Well, Beth and Lori are doing a tournament series called Two Chicks in a Boat. What they're wanting to do is to grow the women fishing, or the women anglers. And so they're doing a tournament for just women anglers. It's you can be a single boater, or you can have a boat with two. But their first stop is April 2nd. And it's going to be here. It's the first time that they're doing the Two Chicks in a Boat tournament trail, and their first stop is going to be Chickamauga. So,
and to answer what you said, Lori, it is Chester Frost is notoriously tough now to get a permit. There's a few other ramps that could be good for it, and I'm sure Colin could help you with that.
Yeah.
And then also Zach has a tournament coming up Saturday. So a week from, so in like 5 days, Zach has one going out of River Park. If you haven't fished it, it's crazy fun.
Yeah.
Zach's an awesome guy,
is.
and he puts on a great tournament.
Looking for lunkers.
That's what Lori's.
Lori says looking for lunkers. So I'll call you, Lori, on trying to help you with the boat ramps. I'll call you here later on. But other than that, we have gone an hour and 10 minutes, and
Yes,
Time flies when you're talking fishing.
yes,
Having
time
fun.
flies when we're
Right.
yes.
that's right.
She's asking. I know Chester Frost. You do Chester Frost.
Frost, you need one for any tournament.
How about
I've never. I mean,
how about the big one with Decatur, where most of the bigger tournaments go?
Dayton.
yeah, you
Or
have
Dayton,
to
I
go
mean.
through Dayton.
Dayton.
That I do know.
There's Harrison Bay.
Harrison
Wolf
Bay.
Teever. Wolf Teever can hold a 20 boat tournament.
Yeah, you can go to Wolf Teever and hold it.
You can call
You don't need
Yeah.
a permit if you go to Wolf.
Right.
So Harrison Bay and Chester Frost and Dayton, you will have to have a permit. So, let's see. But other than that, Josh, we appreciate you coming
Yeah.
out. I
Had a
know
good
you
time
got
chatting
a
with
trip
you.
tomorrow,
Yep.
and you got something going Friday. You're gonna have some spy boats coming.
Got one Thursday too. So
I
Let's
told you
see.
this man's a busy man.
that's the goal.
He's booked. So
Rocky says out of the dam, the upper side, Irwin Marina. Zach says,
Zach, you can't go out of Irwin Marine. That's where we definitely don't catch crappie at on Nickajack. But Irwin Marine's on the river. You're thinking of Chickamauga Marina, I think. But yeah, Rocky's right. You could go right up from the dam, Lord, and easily get 20 boats out of there in April.
well, so that's where they were going to go out of Lakeshore Marina.
Yeah.
And then they told them, well, our boat ramp sucks. So then she went and I told her about the Chattanooga Marina. And so I don't know what the issues that she had going out of there. But Chattanooga Marina definitely can hold 20 boats. They can hold probably close to 50, 60 boats. So, but they're rebuilding it and shutting it down. I got you. We're gonna get off here, Josh. We definitely thank you for coming out, brother.
Yes, for
everybody,
having
we
me.
had a good time. Good time talking fishing with Chattahoochee
That's
Fishing
it.
Charters.
And before we let you go, Josh, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
Okay. Yeah. So I've got a Facebook page, Instagram page. Most active on the Facebook page. You can message me on there. It's just Chattahoochee Fishing Charters, and I think they've linked my name. My name's at least there. If you look that name up, you'll find me on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then I've also got a website. If you search Chattahoochee Fishing Charters online, I've got a website. You can book that way. And yeah, so that's how you can get a hold of me. My phone number, my email, it's all linked in all those places. Just reach out if you want to get out there, or if you ever want a fishing report. Obviously, I'm not going to give you waypoints or anything, but you can call and I'll do everything I can to help put you on the fish, because that's what it's all about. So
Right. And what we're going to do is in the description, after we get done, in the description, we're going to link all his information into it. So it's going to be easy for y'all to check it out and get a hold of him, because I promise you take a trip with him that you will be booking another trip. Because how many people do you have that rebooks from? Well, you probably can't even count.
Yeah, that's a bigger number. That's one thing I definitely pride myself on is getting repeat clients, and I'd say I'm probably 50 or 60% of my clients right now are repeats, which is the ultimate goal, and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, but again, we will link all his information down in the description. And we want to say, if you've held on this long for an hour and 14 minutes, we want to say thank you. And we hope that you will. We're going to be putting this on Deck Talk here tomorrow. We had technical issues. Well, we had quite a bit of technical issues. One with the camera, and then two with the YouTube not allowing us to go live on it. So tomorrow, we're going to put this back on. We're going to put this on Deck Talk's YouTube page. It is called Deck Talk Podcast. So look for it. We need you to like and subscribe. And again, we thank you all for watching, and thank you all for commenting on and asking Josh some questions.
And we appreciate everybody coming along for this is episode 1. Guys, keep posted for episode 2. We should be taping sometime around mid-March, episode 2. And we have our special guest on episode 2 is going to be legendary.
Hold on. Let's let Josh do.
Let's let Josh announce who our guest for episode 2 is going to be.
So if you guys enjoyed listening to this guy talk that has no clue compared to the next guy, you'll definitely enjoy listening to one of the godfathers of bass fishing. That is Shaw Grigsby. Yeah. He is one of the greatest to ever do it. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. If you've had the pleasure of talking to him, he probably giggled the whole way through the conversation. But you don't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So, again, Josh, we thank you. Tell your wife we said thanks for letting us have you for about 2 hours. So,
amen.
But again, congratulations on the baby.
Thank you.
And we cannot wait to see that baby out on the boat with you.
That's right. That's right. My next fishing party.
So, other than that, let's wrap this thing up. And we will see y'all out on the water. God bless. Tight lines.
Tight lines, guys.
See you guys.
Peace out. Thanks.